Welcome to King Talk. This is a conversation about real estate. I'm here with one of my realtor partners, Clarence Johnson. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things today. The first thing is getting to know Clarence a little bit. So Clarence, tell us a little bit about yourself. What got you started in real estate? What do you like about your career field?
I've been around for a while. I've been involved in real estate in some capacity for about 18 years, investing for 13, licensed for 12. Real estate just has always been fascinating. I started in '07 when I saw my parents getting ready to buy a multifamily property, and I was involved with that process, helped the broker, became his assistant, and it's been history from there.
That's great, man. So typically, I consider you one of my most knowledgeable realtor partners. Seems like you try to know a little bit about a lot. You know a lot about the loans. You know a lot about multi-units, which are very rare. In your opinion, should multi-units be the first purchase people make?
Yes, absolutely. And it's always specific to family size, specific to if you want to be a landlord, even though there's been days I don't want to be a landlord. I think multi is definitely a great first move for people. It aids in affordability. It gives you leverage to leave that property and get another property. And historically, we've seen parents, grandparents buy one property and be done. But I've seen and experienced the power of being able to leverage that multifamily property into multiple properties. And I've probably paid 2 mortgages in the history of my investing career by myself. I haven't paid all my mortgages ever.
So, they say that's a new term, affordability. So, but when we talk about affordability, we're talking about the rents from the other units, right?
Yes, supplementing what you're paying to the mortgage company.
Right. So if you have a mortgage for $6,000 and you have a 4-unit building, right, and they're renting the other units for $2,000 each, essentially your $6,000 mortgage is covered because you have 3 other units paying $2,000, which allows you to live rent free. Now those numbers don't always jive in today's real estate market. You're not making $2,000 in profit off of a purchase typically, but at least you're breaking even.
Absolutely, especially not day one, and especially not with the leverage used, the down payment. When I say leverage, I mean the 3.5% or 5% that we typically use for multifamily properties. You're usually not cash flowing day one, but you can definitely live for in or around the price of renting in that same market and have a viable plan to leave that property in the green. So
what is a realistic expectation? When somebody purchases a property or purchasing units, should they expect the cash flow immediately? Should they expect it to take a few years? Or what's a realistic expectation?
Cash flow is a subjective term. Cash flows what you're spending and your outgoing money and your incoming money. Your incoming money being more than your outgoing money. When you're living there or when you're house hacking, cash flow is very subjective because that cash flow is basically supplementing the cost for you to live there. I would say a reasonable expectation would be to pay within $1,000 of market rent. When I'm within $1,000 of market rent for a low down payment loan, I typically know we can drop the mortgage insurance in a few years. We'll have a refi opportunity, and overall rents raise 2-3% a year historically, and we can get that person out of that property, or we can put them in a true cash flow position. But you're not moving in cash flowing, and anybody trying to sell you a $20,000 program saying that is selling you a $20,000 program.
I think it's important because I think people, to me, it seems like the affordability of a single family residence is getting further and further away for the average person. So most people are looking to units to help make it more affordable, right? And when we talk about units, there's different types of units. You have, 3 houses on a lot that don't attach. You have detached units, essentially. You have attached units where you can live side by side, upstairs, downstairs, and a detached house in the back. So when we look at units, just know they come in all different shapes and sizes. Going into homeownership, I feel like homeownership still makes people nervous. In your experience as a realtor, what's the most nervous thing you think people are going through when they're trying to purchase a home?
I think we become nervous or even fearful about the things that we don't know. What you don't know can hurt you and make you more scared than you need to be. What you don't know about credit, what you don't know about down payment, what you don't know about landlord-tenant law, all those things become the boogeyman. The more we become informed, the more we create platforms like this to inform each other, the more we share information, it becomes less scary. But I think the biggest thing is the payment and the variables. And I think one of the most important things people can do in their home buying journey is eliminate the variables. Start gathering information from professionals, start talking to people that have already done it, and eliminate those variables one by one, and eventually you'll be less fearful, you'll be more informed and ready to take that leap.
So I think the fear is what holds a lot of us back from purchasing, just people in general from purchasing properties. But within that, what's like the most crazy scenario you've seen? Like, have you seen the squatters? Have you seen people unwilling to leave the property? Have you had scenarios where you have been able to get people out, or like, what have you seen out there?
I'll speak to 2 scenarios. One of the most crazy things I've seen actually happened not far from here. Okay. My sense of time is very skewed, so I'll say some time ago. Some time ago, when you can buy a $400,000 house in 90047 LA, I had a client. We informed her, we got her ready, and we're closing. And as we're doing the final walkthrough, 3 days before closing, she has almost a nervous breakdown. We're walking through the house, and she's like, "No, make it stop. How can I go back?" And I told her she would lose her money, and she was okay with losing her money not to buy this house. That $400,000 house is probably worth 7 and change right now, and she still lives a couple of blocks away from here. And she was willing to walk away from her entire deposit because it was still scary, and she was on the cusp of closing. That was probably one of the scariest client situations. On the just nutty seller situation side, I had a divorcing couple, and as we're closing, we've had all kinds of, it was a journey. It was very much a journey to close, and as we're about to close, the husband hands me the key, and he looked at me and let me know he doesn't think his wife is leaving. And that wife didn't leave, and we went to serve a 3-day notice. She wasn't there when we went to serve the 3-day notice, and I used the key that the husband gave me, because it's common practice to gain entry to the property. And she showed up to the property, and we've set the remaining furniture in her bags and her puppy in the garage with water, and put up no trespassing signs because police can be particular, and covered the locks up with duct tape and held it down in that house until the police arrived. And the funniest thing, when the police arrived, she was gone. But when they arrived, they're like, "Hey, was it the black lady with the little girl?" And I'm like, "Yeah, did you see her leaving the property?" It's a gated community, nice gated community in Carlden. I thought they seen her leaving. They just knew her. Wow. They just knew her.
You said with the little girl, so they knew that she had a little girl, or
they were familiar with that woman from responding to that house.
Wow, that's a little crazy. So I think that these are the scary stories why some people are afraid to buy, right? And then when you go back to your first story, person had a nervous breakdown. She's still renting today, to your knowledge?
No. She bought that house. We
Okay,
closed on that house, and
Okay.
I wasn't letting her walk away from her deposit.
Okay, I was going to make sure I understood the story.
I'm a realtor, but I'm a therapist. I'm a family counselor. I'm a rub your back and pray with you. We're gonna do what we need to do to get where we're going.
Right.
And it's not me finding you a house. It's me protecting you through the process and comforting you through what can be a nerve-wracking process. I've bought multiple houses myself, and I will still call trusted confidants to talk me off the ledge when I'm arguing about $7,000 on a purchase price, and Chanel makes me laugh, one of my closest confidants in real estate, another investor and agent. She asked me, what would you tell me to do? And it solves the problem. Like, we don't have $7,000 problems.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. So I thought she didn't purchase the property, though. When you told me the story, I thought she kind of walked away from it at the last minute, but she did purchase it. It's worth $300,000. That's probably on the low end if it's in this area.
Very conservative.
Yeah, very conservative. It's probably closer to $400,000 or $500,000 in equity if she purchased it at $4. But we're still nervous. Our people are used to being owned, not used to owning. Okay, so it's one of those things where we're constantly used to renting. We're not used to being the landlord. We're not used to having a certain level of responsibility when it comes to property and ownership. So I was scared when you were telling me the story, but it's good to hear that she moved through that purchase.
We've never lost a deposit. We've never lost $1 of client money. I protect it like it's mine.
and likewise, and I'm glad that you said that, because it's very important, right? So what you just mentioned, and this is, I know we're jumping around, but for those of you who know a little bit about real estate, you should be just fine. Earnest money deposit. That's the money that you put into escrow to open, the transaction to purchase a house. Escrow is basically a third party. So just, if this is a building, imagine escrow is another building. You and the seller both can walk into that building, but they're supposed to be equal to both of you. Okay, so like, you're not supposed to treat anybody with favoritism. They're just there as the middle party to basically hold the money and make sure nobody's being unfair, right? So the EMD, what have you seen when it comes to EMD? Are you helping people only that have 3% of the purchase price? So if it's an $800,000 house, they need $24,000? Or are you helping people with less than that available in their bank account? Or what are you coming across? Because they need something to open escrow. So what is typically, like the lowest and highest you look at that they have to have in their bank account to even open escrow?
There's not a specific amount or percentage, but I just say we need a viable plan. We're actually working on clients right now that don't have all the money to purchase. They're about $14,000 shy of what they need to buy a house. But I know, right timing, strong offer, strategic terms, we can get $14,000 from a seller. So you don't need a specific amount. I need absolute trust in my process, and I need a viable plan to get you there. But sometimes within that viable plan, it's getting money from sellers. Sometimes within that viable plan, you're checking a 401k account, a 403, is it a 403b?
403b.
Yeah, different retirement accounts. We try to source money from different places, including sellers, to hobble together a plan to make it happen. And a lot of people come in with more than enough money, and we're still conservative with the money we use. And some people come in short, and we're strategic about where we source those funds from. Good
stuff. So right now, man, I feel like the temperature is like people are bored with real estate. like it used to be a hot topic probably 3-4 years ago. Real estate was booming, everybody was buying. Now it's like people are shying away from this the subject or the conversation. What do you feel like the temperature is on real estate today? Is it still hot? Is it cold? Is it warm?
It's burning up at my house. So I would say I feel like it's cooled. It's cooled a little. Prices have cooled a little, and that creates headlines. prices go down 1% and you see headlines like $1 trillion real estate crash. Yes, 1% of all the real estate is $1 trillion. Will it go down? Yes. Will it go up? Absolutely. No one's worried about short-term drops unless you're selling tomorrow or dying tomorrow. Don't sell, don't die. That's my best real estate advice. Don't sell, don't die.
Just hold it together, people.
I've seen things cool down a lot, but I think it's mainly it was pricing and our high interest rate environment. It was fear, and I also see a narrative being pushed of renting's easier than buying, or renting's cheaper than buying, renting's easier than buying.
Right.
Rich people rent and go invest their money, and there's some truth to all those statements. There's some falsehood to all those statements. Renting's cheaper than buying in the short term. Renting's cheaper than buying in a 1 to 5 year period, possibly. But if you look at a 30-year period where rent's going up, you're gaining equity, and you have tax write-offs or the possibility to leverage this property, rent this property, there's almost no better investment. And I am biased. I'm a hammer, so I look at everything like a nail when it comes to real estate. But you look at a 100-year chart for real estate, and it looks like a straight line going up. There's, of course, crashes and other opportunities, but if something crashes, you hold it and you buy more. Same as we treat the stock market or a sale at Macy's. If the shirt's on sale, you don't say, "Ooh, I don't want that shirt." You buy 3.
Right. So generally, when you're talking about crashes, right? We're talking about the value of a property going down significantly because people are in that market are either scared to buy or not interested in buying, or maybe unemployment's super high. People have been predicting the next crash since the last crash. We haven't crashed yet. We've had some corrections, which is what's supposed to happen. But now, because there hasn't been a crash, I think a lot of people are scared more because they're like, well, I'll never be able to own this. Let's just forget about it, because unless there's a crash, it'll bring back affordability, make the prices cheaper, essentially. But I digress.
There's a term for that. So those people waiting for that crash, it's I've heard other people use this, so I don't want to steal credit. They basically say, people are waiting for the crash to buy. They call it catching a falling knife. So if it's a $700,000 house and it goes to $650, do you buy? Or do you wait for it to hit $6? Or do you wait for it to hit $550? You don't know where the top is, you don't know where the bottom is. But at some juncture, like I found out when I was buying in 2011, at some juncture, it starts going back up. And when it starts going back up, you're also going to be scared. You're going to be scared when it goes down. You're going to be scared when it goes up. You're going to be scared. And most things that don't scare you, that don't give you butterflies, I tell my sons, they're not worth it. If it's not giving you butterflies, it's below your capacity.
Right. Man, so we just covered a lot just within that little brief conversation. So let's talk about ownership a little bit more. So one of the things that people are afraid of is the unknown when it comes to property. And you got maintenance costs, you got utilities, you got sewer that people aren't used to dealing with, plumbing. For some reason, everybody's pipes are going to explode when they buy a house. What have you seen? What's the word for it? I guess typical, but you've seen, let's say, within the first, because you stay in touch with your buyers long after closing.
Absolutely.
So you get to hear about all of the challenges they've had, throughout that year, 2, 3, 4, 5 year period or what have you, right? So what have you seen when it comes to maintenance? Is it as bad as people fear, or is it a lot simpler?
Anything can happen at any time. That's the reality. We've seen perfectly good roofs, I'm talking roofs installed 2 years ago, blow off because the winds were 50 miles per hour in Fontana. anything can happen at any time. We do our best to mitigate disasters. Is a leaky sink a disaster? No. Is a $1,000 water heater a disaster? No. We're thinking large scale plumbing, large scale electrical, large scale roof. I'm thinking of the other two systems. Foundational. We're looking at big ticket items. We try to mitigate that in our investigation period with our inspectors. So we have trusted inspectors that we work with. Every buyer is entitled to find their own inspector, but you probably want to deal with the inspector I've been dealing with since 2011. But if you don't, you find one on Yelp. I still try to help vet them out, and we get a general home inspection, and we always get a sewer inspection. Neither one's required. They're always advised, and I don't care if you've bought 10 houses, I still would advise you to get an inspection. And I don't think I've ever, even for investors, we still get inspections, because $600 general home inspection from a trusted inspector is well worth. It's an insurance policy for $20,000-$30,000 systems, being the sewer repairs, being the roof. So we go in there and get as much information as possible. So we've had very few disasters, but there's always the occasional roof leak, the occasional electrical issue, occasional plumbing issue. But we've had very few large scale disasters because we do that work on the front end, and we're extremely conservative doing that work on the front end. But I also have to share with buyers that I look at old houses all the time. So if you look at an inspection report for an old house, it'll probably scare you. You look at a 30, 40 page report, it's going to scare you. But if you look at a 30, 40 page report for every house on that block, they're probably going to look similar. There's going to be very few differences in those inspection reports, and a lot of old house issues are common in old houses. Like, our housing stock is 80 to 100 years old in most of LA, so you're going to have a lot of the same issues. We're not going to abandon this house because it's old, go look for 3 more months, and have you pay $600 to find out this next house is old. So we mitigate disaster by doing our homework, but a lot of these houses are old, so we definitely do our homework.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Fontana with a roof blowing off. We're here in Inglewood, California, so that does bring the question, do you have a geographical territory that you serve, sir? Are you just everywhere? Is there any place you won't go? Or where should people know that they can utilize your services at? Or within?
I am not everywhere. I generally tell people about 30 minutes from LA Central. So if I can't drive there from Carson, where I live, in about 30, 40 minutes, it's generally not an area that we're shopping in. I could always refer you out to a trusted partner, but just life is very busy for me to be effective long range. Have we done San Diego deals? Yes. Have we done Hemet and Fontana deals? Yes. A lot of my clientels repeat. If I've sold you a house and you want to go to Fontana, it's a different relationship than you calling me from the internet and you want to go to Fontana. If we're looking new construction in Fontana, it's different than, me spending every Saturday out there. But I generally stay 30, 45 minutes away from central LA, South Bay, Long Beach. But I'm absolutely willing to go for the right relationship, and honestly, even new people. If someone calls me from the internet and I have a good feeling about the relationship and they actually trust my judgment, I know how long it's going to take to find a house, and I'm a lot more effective writing offers in Fontana than I am in LA because it's a little less competitive. My LA offers in Fontana get accepted a lot faster than a shopping, standing behind 20 people for one house in LA. What made you go independent?
What made me go independent? Well, it's not a straight line to success, right? So I think that for me, a lot of failure within success, right? You can make success look great. I think for me, when I started noticing that I was figuring out a lot of the solutions to my problems without any further help, how do you fix this issue in this computer system when you're having trouble submitting a loan or you're getting an error message? How do you get around this guideline that FHA has or conventional has or what have you to get a deal done? And after you start accumulating so many answers, figuring out so many things with a little to no help, you start to realize that you could really handle a lot of things on your own. I did not know back when I was interested in just getting my real estate broker's license back in like 2008, because I got my license in 2010. Didn't use my real estate broker license at all until 2019 when I purchased my first house, that I would ever be a real estate broker. And even within that, a mortgage broker more so, right? Because I don't really practice on the real estate side, I'm more so on a loan side. So it just kind of felt like it was time for me. Obviously, I had enough savings to go independent because I wasn't working for anybody for a few months while I'm waiting for the state of California to approve my my mortgage brokerage, right? Also had to get a different license and things like that, man. But I just felt like I came to the conclusion that I don't know, but I'm smart enough to find out or figure it out, right? I don't know, but I'm smart enough to figure it out. So, hey, Carlden, what are you going to do when they come after you for taxes? I don't know, but I'll figure it out. Hey, what are you going to do if you have some kind of computer issue and, something breaks and you have to get a new computer? I don't know, but I'll figure it out. What are you going to do when your accountant says X, Y? I don't know, but I'm smart enough to figure it out. And I think that once I had that confidence within myself, it made a lot more sense for me to go independent.
Got it. I love that mantra. I don't know, but I'll figure it out. And I'll speak personally to that. I've been seeing you figure it out since we did that first loan. I've been seeing you figure it out. And we have a relationship because you've always been able to figure it out. I'll segue because you speaking to overlays and getting around guidelines, that was one of the main things that stood out to me. That you'd go black and white. It's not like someone said, it's like, oh no, the book says. Right. And when you did go black and white, we were able to get past problems that other people couldn't fix. And then sometimes you'd go black and white and we'd see that the obstacle was an overlay from a company, not a guideline. Could you speak a little more to that? Because some people are walking in their large bank where they hold their money and they think they're going to do good loans. And I've seen those large banks where they hold their money foul things up.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try to break it down to you in ways you guys understand. Everybody don't want your loan. Everybody don't want your loan with a 620 credit score, questionable payment history. A lot of major banks have what's called overlays. So just to give you an example, FHA. You can get an FHA. FHA doesn't really even have a minimum credit score requirement. The banks that loan the money create their own credit score that you have to have in order to get that loan.
Which is an overlay.
Which is an overlay, correct.
So guideline says no credit score. Overlay says
guideline is kind of blank on it. So we've seen like 500 credit score be the minimum credit score that most banks will do. Not even most banks. It's some banks. Very limited banks will do a 500 credit score loan if you're putting down 10% or more, right, to purchase going FHA. Then we see a 3.5% down going with a 580 and up credit score. A lot of banks won't do 580 credit scores, right? You got some banks that won't do 620. When the pandemic hit, we had banks jump all the way to 700 credit score. So that's an overlay. That's a rule being made by the bank to protect their interests, but in a way it doesn't serve your interests. So it's very important to know, because if you're putting in an application with a certain bank, they pretty much don't want your credit score before you even apply. So if you know where you stand, you may not get that loan. Then you also have other things that meet guidelines, and it's kind of hard for me to think of one off the top of my head, but other things that meet guidelines that certain banks just don't want to do. So in my case, I've had the experience of failing at loans to the point where I had a manager, and I tell this story occasionally, that I used to go to, African brother, very thick accent, reminding you of Michael Blackson or Michael Black. I asked him a question, and he was like, "Let me ask you a question. Why don't black people like to read?" And I was offended. I was upset, but he was right. Because I totally was coming to him to ask him every little question I had, and I was not reading the guidelines to figure out the answer. So after he kind of rejected me, I started going to the guidelines first, right? And if a guideline did not make sense, then I would come to him. And just over time, over scenarios, I got great at, knowing the guidelines like the back of my hand. So now to this day, sometimes I have an argument with an underwriter where I actually understood the guideline better than they did, or I argue with the underwriter and FHA agreed with me more than they agreed with the underwriter, because people are looking at a lot of different things. I'm looking at one loan, one scenario, and that guideline on that scenario. This underwriter's looking at hundreds of loans, hundreds of products. Do they forget? Yes, we're in a very human industry. So, I just made it my business to know the guidelines after that experience, and I haven't stopped since. We're still reading guidelines in 2026. We're still hosting trainings with my team in 2026 to make sure we understand changes that happen to the guidelines, because changes happen almost quarterly. And depending on the industry you're in, I kind of like it because it's going to be hard for you to automate me up out of here, right? So in the days of AI, where people are trying to automate everything, with guidelines changing and having to kind of morph to meet today's challenges and times, you still need a human being to kind of make that happen, or a great AI, which you're on the way. But until then, we got it handled.
I actually have an AI question, but I did hear you. So understanding what you're saying, the loan guidelines may say X, but the big bank where you keep your money may say Y. Right. And they can tell you when you walk in scared and you muster the courage to do this loan application, they can tell you, no, you're denied. And the reality is they just can't do it. You're not denied. They just can't do it. And you walk out with your head down and you're like, the investors are buying up the houses and my neighborhood's being gentrified. And the bank has told me no, because they tell us no. But he could probably do the same loan.
Yeah, typically I try not to waste anybody's time, and Clarence knows that, and other realtor partners I work with know that. You give me the scenario, or I talk to the client about the scenario, because typically the realtor's trying to understand the most that they can about the scenario, but in most cases there's a question I'm going to need to ask of the client, right? Within about 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, I typically understand, can I help this person? Why or not, or what loan would they be able to fit into, or is it best that they wait? Is it best we work on credit? Is it best that we file taxes or income a certain kind of way? So typically within 15 minutes, I think most people are scared of that first initial conversation with the loan officer. I will tell you, don't be scared of that conversation, because it is just a conversation. I'm not documenting, I'm not turning it into anybody. It's not a pass or fail, right? Most people are scared to know if they may not qualify. But in reality, it's most of the time it's not that you won't qualify, it's just not right now, right? So I wanted to buy a house when I was fresh out of college, just got a first job, and it was kind of like, yeah, but you don't really have a history. Well, at that time, that guideline has changed today, but at that time, you had to have a 2-year history within the same career field. I didn't have that at the time. So, it was a not right now. But I wasn't declined. It's just that particular bank. And if I would have gone to a different bank, I might have actually been able to get approved back then, right? So these little things that maybe you don't know that you should probably speak to a loan officer about. And you might have to speak to multiple companies, or just speak to me and I'll, let you know if, somebody else can or can't do your loan. Within that, part of the reason I decided to go independent is pricing. Interest rates are lower on the wholesale side, which mortgage brokers offer. So if I know that I can offer you a better interest rate, which is what you really want as a client, I should be in the best position to offer you that, right? And when it comes down to competing with other banks, I mean, we've been beating banks, and that's been kind of my joy of my newfound career. Monarch Mortgage is 4 years old now. We've beaten Bank of America, we've beaten Navy Federal, we've beaten different banks on the terms that they're offering you. So that has been a point of professional pride for me, where before I had to go ask the bank I worked for, hey, can we beat this deal? And because they were a direct lender or their pricing was so high, they couldn't beat the deal and I was losing deals. So this also helped me maintain and retain and gain more clients. So
what you speak to has been my experience with you. We've been working together for a long time and no one gets denied. Everyone walks away with a plan. When you said that conversation is scary, it's very scary. If I had to do a loan application a day, I'm like, I might get butterflies.
Right.
But it's free.
Right.
It's a free conversation, and I have so many people talk to me as a realtor, and they're like, Clarence, I'm gonna call you when I'm ready. You don't know when you're ready. You do not know when you're ready. You know when you're ready to buy a house, like you know when you're ready to have a surgery. You don't know. You don't know. You need to talk to someone that knows what you don't know, and they will tell you if you're ready, and if you're not ready. It's not a big red F. I think that's the imagery. They think it's like, boom, denied.
Yeah, I'm going to send you this letter in the mail that says that you're
You have to
denied.
walk around with the scarlet letter. So it's not a denial. It's a plan. Of course I want to sell you a house. Of course he wants to do you a loan. He's not going to just deny you and send you out the door on the walk to shame. We're going to come up with a plan. And we've had clients together that executed a 2-year, 3-year plan, and they have a house and they're working on their next house.
I think that's a very important thing that for you to know. My job as a loan officer is not to deny your loan. It is to take what your scenario is and find a way to make it work, right? So in some cases, it can immediately work. Like this time of year, we're in January right now. February is next month, but this month is where people are going to start filing taxes, right? So maybe your outlook wasn't good in 2024. Maybe the way you filed taxes in 2024 did not work. But now here's 2025. Maybe what was a problem last year, we have a solution for this year, right? Typically, I ask people to send me drafts of their taxes. Don't file it. Don't give it to the IRS just yet. Because if you do that and you wrote off all your income, there's not going to be enough income to help you qualify to purchase a house. Or if I need you to take less deductions to help you qualify, or maybe you have no interest in filing taxes at all, or you want to claim as much deductions as possible, maybe we could do a bank statement loan or a self-employed loan, like a 1099 loan or a profit and loss loan. All these terms, I don't expect you to know them, but just know that there are a lot of options available for your scenario. It just depends on what are you willing to do, right? Because that's what it ultimately boils down to. I can't make you file taxes. I can't make you spend the money. I can't make you save the money, right? But if you're not paying Uncle Sam, if you're not paying your taxes to IRS, it may make a lot of sense to take whatever you've accumulated and put it into property to help yourself in the long run, right? Not just yourself, but also your family, because 30 years from now, your kids will still be here, or 40, 50 years from now, your kids will still be, or their grandkids will still be here. And it doesn't matter what year it is, we still need a roof over our heads, right? So that's the biggest thing about real estate, is that you do own it, right? It does get paid all the way off at some point. Some people just want to decrease the amount they're paying, so they refinance to get there, but to each his own, so.
You need to call Carlden before you file your taxes.
You really do. You really do. And it's not because I think that in today's day and age, where so many answers are so accessible to you, that people feel that they know more than even a loan officer would know when it comes down to helping you purchase a house. It's been my experience that you don't know as much as the loan officer. Okay. And why would you, right? I don't care what you do. You probably know more about it than I do if you have a career field doing something else, right? If you're an animal catcher, right? You know how to catch an animal better than me. Can I figure it out? Sure, I can figure it out. Would it have been safer going your direction? Probably, right? If you're a gardener, you probably know how to cut grasses more efficiently, right? It's the same thing with your loan officer. They probably know a little bit more than what you know or what you follow because you're not in the industry that they're in, right? So, I've had people come to me, tell me they know their debt to income ratio. That's very interesting because your debt to income ratio now is not about to be the debt to income ratio that I'm looking at. Because I'm looking at the debt to income ratio when we factor in a new home you're about to buy, right? And that takes into account what? What's the interest rate? I don't know that until we get your credit score, right? And the other aspects, are you buying a condo? Are you buying a single family? Are you buying units, right? How much are you putting down? So there's so many things that go into the conversation that really you kind of don't know your debt to income ratio now with a whole house now in there on top of what's in your debt. You don't know the strategies in some cases of how to get around certain things, right? How the kid today, well, not quite today, but within the past month, had lates on the student loans. Okay, person is working 2 jobs. They really are eligible for an income-based repayment plan, right? Some of you know that, some of you don't. But if you're on an income-based repayment plan, we can use $0 if that's your monthly payment from the income-based repayment plan on your student loan application. So essentially you don't have student loan debt. You may not know that if you're in school and your student loan is deferred, we still have to hit you with between 0.5% of your total balance or 1% of your total balance, even if you're not making payments at the time because you're in school. They're less than 10 months on a car. If you have less than 10 months left to pay off a car, you can exclude it from your debt to income ratio. If you have collections that you haven't paid on at above $1,000, you may have to still factor that in to your debt to income ratio using 0.5% of the balance. So it's just all these different guidelines that how would you know that? How would you know what can come out of your debt to income ratio? How do you know what can be included? Unless you're actually working with a loan officer or done so much research yourself that you're able to figure it out. 15 minutes, y'all. We can figure it out for you. You'll have an idea because I'll let you know, hey, if you're ready to apply today or if you might need to wait and do it later.
I love how humble you are. I won't be because I've seen what you can do. They absolutely need to call you before they file their taxes. I call Carlden every year before I file my taxes. My accountant creates a draft.
No pressure.
We do not press enter. I send it to Carlden and I tell him my 2-3 year plan. I tell him if I want to refi, if I want to buy, if I want to sell, if I want to level up. I give him my plan and he makes sure my taxes align with my plan so I don't shoot myself in my foot like Harlem Nights.
Right. And it has happened where I've had people come to me. It's interesting. I had a gentleman, oh, you know what? I don't want to buy right now. I'm about to start my own business. And I'd rather wait until after I start my business before I proceed with buying a house. The challenge is typically you need at least 1 to 2 years of self-employed income before you can even use it as income. So, hey, sir, it's no problem if you want to wait till after you start your business, but just know that after you start your business, you're going to have to wait 1 or 2 more years. So it's just important for you to know that, right? And I kind of get it, right? I mean, I was, I've been in that position where I've gone from W-2 to 1099 and you don't really know what your income is going to be. So you really kind of want to figure that out before you buy. But so does the bank. The bank wants to know that you have that figured out before you buy as well. So in most cases, if you're making that switch, you do have to kind of make a decision like, hey, I'm okay with waiting 2 years potentially just to get back to where you were today. In some cases, those 2 years could cost you dramatically, right? If prices continue to increase the way they are over the next 2 years, you would have been better off buying then, right? But if you're taking that jump into self-employment, you might be scared of what your income would be, so it might make sense for you to wait. But you do have to weigh both options and know what your options are, because you might be shooting yourself in the foot. Yeah.
I will even share. Outside of your presence, I speak to you as a jungle lion, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. We have jungle lions.
I've been called that before.
Monarch, regal. We have jungle lions and we have zoo lions. I call you a jungle lion because I talk to clients who want to get loans from where they keep their money, the big box banks. Those are zoo lions. Those zoo lions will eat if they do your loan or not. They will get paid whether they do your loan or not. They have vacation days whether they do your loan or not. He can't go on vacation if he doesn't do your loan. He can't eat if he doesn't do your loan. If you let a jungle lion into the zoo, he will eat the zoo lions. And if you let that zoo lion out, he will die. They're not ready. They're not. They eat no matter what. If they don't help you, they still eat. I don't want that person doing my loan.
You know what? That's very interesting, because I'm going to tell you, I was a little bit frustrated. I went into a bank, which we don't go into banks anymore, but walked into a bank, and the gentleman behind the desk has that badge that says loan consultant on it. And it started, I was like, hey, let me just ask him a few questions, you know what I mean? Just to see kind of like, what do you need to know versus what do I need to know to help people? And he really didn't know that much. You know, it was a very, well, once you put in the application, you know, we'll find out, you know. And in which case, of course, a lot of us don't want to apply unless we have a good idea that it will work out, right? And I will tell you that a general bank person is not required to go through as much as I am, or mortgage brokers are, or loan officers outside of major banks are required to go through, because they are allowed to essentially, they could get they can register for a license, right? I have to test for a license, okay? Not only that, to your point, if they don't close your deal, they're still getting paid by the bank. I absolutely have to close their deal, or else I won't be getting paid at all, right? Because I only get paid if you close. I'm not earning any money anywhere else, opening a checking account, savings account, CD. I don't do that, right? The only way I get paid is if you end up with a home, right? And I don't collect anything from you between the conversation until you own a home. So that's why Clarence is saying that's free. Matter of fact, it costs me to talk to you, but that's a whole separate conversation. But the thing that I want to stress is just, they're not, required to go through as much continuing education. They're not required to have any additional certifications. In some cases, they're not even required to have a bachelor's degree, which I do have a bachelor's degree in business. So it does make that conversation very difficult. They don't even have the software to even help you in the moment. So once you get an application, the primary way that we prove somebody is approved in the mortgage industry is if we have an AUS, which is an automated underwriting system, or an automated underwriting approval that shows this person can get the loan. That person sitting behind that desk does not have access to an AUS. And so they could not tell you if you're actually going to be approved. And one of the scariest things that I see realtors talk to me about is that they have a client that went to a major bank and they said they're approved, or gave them a pre-approval letter or a pre-qualification letter. And now they're home shopping. And when they get into escrow, the underwriter is finally running the AUS and unfortunately telling them that they're not qualified, or they're not approved for the home loan after issuing them a pre-approval letter. So that's not how I operate. We do the pre-approval up front, your income, your assets, your credit. It's not to, get in your way. It's almost to protect yourself, because you can run out there and look at 100 houses if you want, but I'm not paying for that gas. And it's a waste of your time if you can't close on the loan. So,
and mine.
Yeah, and your realtor, which is why realtors prefer to work with me, because they know that I'm not going to send them on a wild goose chase with somebody who can't close, right?
I love that.
So yeah,
I would go as far as to say, even when I'm selling a house, if I'm selling a house and I see we get two offers, one's big bank, one is a bank I've never heard of, not even Monarch, just stranger. I'd rather deal with the stranger, because I know what the big banks do. I'll give the stranger a chance. But if it is Monarch, it's a gold seal of approval. We we run from those big bank loans on the buy side and on the sell side. I don't even take those approvals serious. And when someone absolutely wants to work with them, I have to call and vet them out. I have to call and talk to the loan officer to make sure all the documents were collected, to make sure that they're protecting them like I need them to be protected. And in many cases, I end up wearing both hats and getting one check. I don't want to wear both hats and get one check. I want to wear one hat, he wears a hat, and we get separate checks.
I'm glad you brought that up, because some people don't understand. Some people still think I do real estate, which is fine if you believe that, because I'm just going to refer you to a real estate agent. But I am a loan officer. I help you get the money. Clarence is a realtor. He helps you find a house, right? We both have jobs that we do, because sometimes I know they call you for loans, and then he calls me with the client, and then they call me for real estate, and I call him with the client. So, but it's very important for you to kind of understand who does what, right? Ultimately, I wish I could pre-approve you or run you out to find a house and come back and do the same thing for somebody else, but it's just inefficient, and it's not my strength, right? Clarence's strength is getting out there, negotiating with your seller, the listing agents, as the buyer's agent. That's his strength, right? For me, it's being here at the office, making sure that I get all the documentation from you that I need, and I get it submitted to the bank as quickly as possible, because in most cases, some of the advantage is who can close quicker, right? So that's something I can do. I can close a loan, and we've actually closed a transaction in 10 days before, which was crazy, because even Clarence didn't believe me when I told him that we could do it.
It was 30 days worth of work in 10 days.
Yeah.
It was 30 days worth of work in 10 days, but it was amazing, because if he couldn't close in 10 days, we wouldn't have got the deal. So it was a 3-way call.
Right.
She's like, we love your offer, but house is going to be foreclosed on in 12 days. You need to close in 10. We've done 21-day deals. We've done 15-day deals. We've never done a 10. So I'm like, he can't do that. No one can do that. And then I called you on 3-way, and he gets the full scenario, and he's like, we can do it. And we did it. We absolutely did it.
Closed on it before it got foreclosed on. So it helped everybody, right? So yeah.
And that was an FHA loan.
Was it?
That was an FHA loan.
You know, I don't even care. We close it.
Record time.
If it passed the smell test, right? Like if I can get everything I need from because everybody has to be on board. Escrow has to be on board. The seller has to be on board. Matter of fact, I thought we got to closing and they weren't ready to close.
They weren't. It was an FHA duplex.
Yeah.
FHA duplex.
And they weren't ready to close. So we moved faster than they thought we would be able to move. So it is possible.
One of the things that you did mention, you know what? I'll circle back. You mentioned your role. I think it's important to even double down on my role.
Okay.
My role is not to find you your house. You have Zillow, you have Redfin, you got AI, you have a lot of things. You have a lot of resources to find a house. I let you know where the best house is. If you're, trying to decide between X house and Y house, I can let you know where the puck is going in regards to value, where things are trending better, where things are trending worse. I've lived in LA all my life, so in many cases, I'll also be able to tell you where you don't need to be, where you don't need to be, where you want to be. I remember people were sad, everybody's head down in Inglewood. Oh, the investors are coming, house prices are going up. I begged them to go to San Pedro. I begged them to go to Carson, and the people that went are reaping the benefit. The people that didn't go are missing $300,000 in equity.
Right.
My job's not to find you the house. My job's to guide you in that process, to help you make the best decision for long-term equity growth, to look at the major systems in the house before you pay an inspector $600, to use my expertise in investing and helping people to make sure I'm protecting you even before we're in escrow. I walked the house this morning at 8:45 and I'm like, looks like foundation damage. I see a lot of long linear cracks. We're testing doors. Some of them don't close. It's a red flag to me already. We don't need to open escrow and pay an inspector to find out what I know. That's my job. that is my job, and it's almost demeaning when it's like, shut up and open the door. I'm not a door opener. I'm not a door opener. I help people make the biggest investment in their life, and I'm good at it.
That's what, I'm glad that you took us back to that, because it's a very good, important thing to mention. Absolutely. Well, that's it for today. This is King Talk. I hope you guys learned how to be kings and queens, and we will have some queens on here too, talking to you about real estate, investment, life. If you guys have any questions for Clarence or myself, feel free to post it in the chat box, and like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, because we're trying to keep this content going that helps you learn about not just real estate, but also what it may take to help you increase your wealth. Thank you, and talk to you guys soon.